Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of my podcast. I just realized you get to see the top of my microphone here. So if you're watching the video, you get to see the top of one of my old socks. That's a special feature if you're watching the video. If you're just listening to this, you're totally missing out. I'm still wearing headphones that I don't need to be wearing. Maybe at some point I'll need those. If I actually start playing stuff on my speaker, I will need those. But right now I don't. Anyways, this is a pre-record one again. I'm still really experimenting with a lot of this podcast stuff. I really enjoyed doing it last time. And right now it's kind of evolving it. Obviously, I thought the audio worked out great. I thought the Blue Yeti I have, I guess an unintentional product placement there. I thought I did a great job doing the audio. Obviously, the camera was an issue, so I got a new camera. There's other things I want to play with. I want to play with putting in like sound clips and like little videos to incorporate into the video format. I'm not there yet, and I would actually like to get to a point where I can just live stream this. Not there yet. It's not going to be to the quality I'd prefer. One of the advantages to getting a new camera and being able to get not only like a better picture is now you can also see a bit more of my trash in the back. I guess it's not trash, but it's definitely a mess I need to go through back here. And you don't want to see what's over on this side. You don't want to see that one. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff for me to work out in my room. I do want to say that if you are watching this on the main YouTube channel, you're actually watching this a couple days late. I actually have a separate podcast channel where I put all this content on. I cut into segments and I put it on there. And I also have the whole podcast episodes in one piece. I also am getting this put on a whole bunch of podcasting platforms. Let's see where it's on. I've submitted it to most everywhere. My iTunes account is actually locked. So I do need to fix that so I can get it up on iTunes. But as of right now, you can listen to this on Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, Deezer, Listen Notes, Player FM, and Podcast Index. These are all things that I've mostly never heard of. But yeah, apparently you can listen to this podcast on there. So hey, that's cool. Well, anyways, the big topics I'm going to be covering. One of the topics I was asked to cover that I just haven't really had time to research would be the HBO Max day and deal and the debacle with that. I haven't really researched it, so I'm not going to discuss it. I am sorry. Thank you for the request. I will hopefully get to it at some point. But right now, we are going to be talking about the first theater experience I've had since COVID. We went to see A Quiet Place 2. We'll be talking about the movie and honestly, the theater experience, which I will say will be very quickly go over because there's not a whole lot to say about the pure theater experience. We also will be talking about Loki episode 2. And I will have a little bit of background noise. The kids are here. I want to do an abbreviated episode, but I want to keep this up. I want to do another episode every week. We will talk about Wandavision versus Falcon the Winter Soldier. I'll do kind of my brief comparison of that, and I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of that's going to be off the top of my head. I'm not sure where I'm going to land on that one even right now. As I'm recording, I don't know where I'm going to land on that one. And then something that was brought up for my soapbox, I'm going to be discussing, did I regret my vote for Biden? I brought up a lot of my issue with Joe Biden, and I criticize him a lot. Do I regret voting for him? That'll be my soapbox for today. So let's go ahead and just dive right into... Background noises are fun. Let's dive into my theater experience. So we went to see A Quiet Place 2. It's the first movie I've actually seen in theaters since The Invisible Man. Was that February or March? Was Invisible Man the last one? Was it like Invisible Man and Sonic the Hedgehog were like towards the end? I think Invisible Man we saw after Sonic the Hedgehog, but I'm not certain on that. But yeah, that was a last theater experience I've had until A Quiet Place 2, which I guess have been out for a couple weeks, but I haven't been keeping an eye on theaters and haven't really considered going to one. But my son really wanted to go to a theater. So yeah, the theater experience was different. I ordered the tickets online, as I usually do, and then it also was order the food online, which I did, and I'm not sure if there's any advantage to that at all at this point. It was kind of wonky, because it's supposed to be pre-made and ready for you, and it wasn't. They just had to put it together when I got there. So, yeah, so there was that. And then the theater was more empty than you'd expect for a movie that hasn't been out that long, for obvious reasons, of course. I want to say there's 3 groups of us there. We were like in the middle, and then there's a group way up front and a group in the back. And that was about it. I would say maybe 12 to 15 people in the theater total, but like separate off into 3 groups. So it was not congested at all. Plenty of separation. Overall, the theater experience was just fine. There was someone up ahead, a couple rows. The group up front, there was someone that kept on looking at their phone, which kind of drove me a bit nuts. But I also found my kids talked a little bit more than I was used to, and I had to remind them, be like, shh, movie theater, other people are here. But yeah, other than that, it was about what I remember. Nothing spectacular. We, of course, went to a nice recliner theater, so that's always fun. As for the movie itself, Quiet Place 2 is really, like, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it's getting really good reviews. I thought it was fine. It is, much like this podcast, is the glowing essence of adequacy. It is, it's like, the good way to describe it, it's a sequel to the story of the first one, but not to the themes of the first one. What I like so much about the original Quiet Place was that it felt like it had this theme of talking and how we all need to communicate with each other and how that's the key to all this. Part of the problem with the family was how the daughter and the father didn't communicate well, and they're learning to communicate with each other, which was the strength of that movie, that it's them learning to communicate. And this one seems to just carry on the story, but not really the themes. I guess you could say the themes kind of get repeated, where the daughter, who's deaf, and, full-fledged spoilers, just FYI. The daughter who's deaf, they meet up with a friend from the beginning. The beginning's all this prequel stuff. So it's day one. It gives John Krasinski a chance to actually be an actor for a couple minutes in this movie. But anyways, we see an old friend who's still alive. The family goes to him after the events of the first one. They go to see this old friend who's still alive. And the deaf daughter hears a broadcast of Beyond the Sea. She theorizes that it's a island off the sea, approximately here. Approximately on my hand. No, approximately on this point on the map she points to. They think she's crazy. She goes off on her own. The mom goes to this family friend and says, hey, can you go track her down? He's kind of freaked out from the world, and he doesn't want to, but he does. And kind of, at best, if you want to say the themes are still alive, they just get replayed between him and her. But if you want to say that, they're not nearly as powerful. It's not nearly as effective. It's barely there, I would say. But largely, this movie just kind of carries on the story. Kind of like, what is the next step? Which is fine, but at the same time, I also feel like if we're going to be taking the first movie literally, just as a raw story about these sound creatures coming to attack us, if we take that literally and ignore the themes, literally that movie is pretty freaking dumb. Because now we start getting into the arguments, oh, well, why don't they just live by the waterfall? Why aren't they soundproofing the crap out of their house super effectively? I mean, we see them do a little bit, but not nearly what you'd want to do in that situation. Like, you would literally be going to some place like Joann Fabrics, or literally any place like that, getting those huge rolls of foam and padding your house with it. Because you need to soundproof the crap out of it. Just so that if you drop something, they don't come and kill you. You know, if we watch the first movie and we're watching it for themes, it's actually spectacular, and John Krasinski directs the hell out of it. If we're watching it for story, there's lots of holes in it. Now, this second one, like I said, just follows the story. So that means it doesn't have as many holes because they're traveling around more, but at the same time, if we're taking this literally, do we have to take the first one literally and kind of ignore the themes? Because it's one of those things where it's like, it hurts the first one more than it works on its own, but kind of hurts the first one if we're now taking it literally. It was one of the issues with doing a sequel to A Quiet Place, because its themes are good, but now we're continuing the story and ignoring the themes, and I'm feeling like a broken record a bit. But A Quiet Place 2, it is that, but there's some stupid stuff in here too. Because they go to the island and they discover there are people here. And that is, they go... Yeah, I lose my train of thought right there. They find the people, and they hang out there. And one of the things that happens is, we discover the creatures can't really swim. Okay, fine. And then, so they go to the island on the boat. Well, what ends up happening is one of the creatures ends up hooking itself to a boat separate from them, and kind of, I guess, drifting to this island on this boat, and then it attacks this island, which I'm kind of mind blown. Number one, they don't have anybody to watch for that possibility, which I guess that's fine, maybe, but wow, what are the odds of that happening? This thing that can barely swim, just barely hang on to this boat, hangs onto this boat long enough, it just happens to end up on this island where it can kill a whole bunch of people who don't know any better. How does that happen? I also have to wonder, are other islands safe? Is Hawaii safe? I don't know. But yeah, the whole creature hanging on to a boat and just happens to drift over there. That's something else. And now we have to go into one of the more just weird things that bugged me. So obviously, I never even thought about this, but there are no real people of color that I remember in the first movie. And they tried to remedy that, because now they have 2 black people in this movie. It's not usually something I would take note of, but we see them both die. They have speaking roles, and they both die. And it's one of those cliches where it bugs me. Why are you doing that? It's like in X-Men First Class. What was that, 2011? X-Men First Class. Darwin is the one to die, of course. And it's such a cliche, and all these horror movies are like X-Men First Class is an action movie. The black guy dies. And now, in this movie, we literally have 2 black guys, and they both die. Ugh, that's, obviously, I think Krasinski means well, and he wants representation in this movie, but he does it, and then he does it in the most cliche way possible. And it's kind of a shame, because, Krasinski directs the hell out of these movies. There is so much setup and payoff in these movies, and it's not even it kind of works for me. It's super obvious, but it works for me. It's less, oh God, of course they're going to do something with that, and more, ooh, I wonder when they're going to do something with that. I'm more interested when it's going to happen. So, do I like A Quiet Place 2? Yes, but it's nothing special, I would say. It's well directed. Krasinski, I think, is a very good director. I think there's obvious... I think I might have given him too much credit on the first one, because I feel like maybe the themes in that movie were accidental. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe he needs someone... I don't know. I don't want to say it's a terrible screenplay, because it's not bad, but there are obvious issues. So it'd be nice if he... I think this is only his second feature film. I probably should have looked that up. So, as a second feature film, it's fairly strong. It's not one of the best movies ever. It's obvious setup for a sequel, so obviously there'll be a Quiet Place trilogy. Maybe they bring the themes together in that one, in which case these complaints are meaningless. But as of right now, I feel like it's kind of just another entry. It doesn't really it expands the story, but doesn't really add to it that much. I mean, technically it adds to it, but not in any way I find particularly interesting. It's an absolutely fine movie. I watched it, I didn't hate myself afterwards. It's adequate. Now here, we'll move on to Loki, episode 2. I don't remember the name of this first one, of the second episode. I should probably look up more stuff. But I remember the first one was named Glorious Purpose, and I didn't even bring that up. But what this second episode is mainly Loki and the TVA just kind of working together. Loki in the bureaucracy, kind of just figuring out how to catch this variant. And it brings up lots of theories for me. Again, spoilers. If you're watching this on a separate video, this is spoiling the crap out of it. One of the things we saw in the first episode that I didn't bring up in the last podcast was when Loki encounters these people, the TVA pop up, they take Loki, and then they plant this little, vial thing that starts out orange and then turns purple, and then it just expands out, but we don't really see what it does. And when Loki explains quickly what it does, and then we kind of see it here, how it essentially just eradicates everything to fix the timeline. It doesn't... what are they called? They're like reset bombs or something. But instead of actually maybe erasing memories or something like that, it just kills people. So all the people we saw that encountered Loki briefly in that first episode, they're dead. So now, this is what happened. I comb my hair and something happens. So all those people are dead. So, and we're also seeing the TVA acting kind of brutish. There's a sinisterness to the TVA that was less there in the first episode. We're seeing more into this organization, which is interesting. And it also makes me really begin to wonder, because lots of people were posting this in the comments, and now I'm really beginning to think the TVA are the bad guys here. Am I certain about that? Actually, after this episode, yeah, I'm kind of sure. I don't know if they're main villains of the series, but they're definitely bad news, if nothing else. One of the things they explore is what is a variant. I assume variants are kind of a rare thing. Of course, if TVA kind of covers all of time, so, all of time might have a lot of variants for them to deal with, but I assumed a variant was just like they explain in Endgame. If you get an Infinity Stone, you can make a branching timeline with that Infinity Stone. So variants are people who happen across Infinity Stones and time travel and make branching timelines with them. I thought it was just limited to that. And the sacred timeline is just people on this timeline doing their thing on the timeline. But now it's clearly established. It's clearly established that this new timeline, that the sacred timeline, everybody has a certain course they have to follow. And all a variant is someone who chooses to go on, who essentially goes free will and does something that is slightly off step, and then the TVA pops up and kills them essentially to get rid of any branch. So it has nothing to do with Infinity Stones. Infinity Stones are just little paperweights, like they said in the first episode. It's a free will thing. People have to do what they are destined to do, and if they don't do that, they're a variant and they're killed. That's dark, and that's messed up. So now we've established that those are variants, and they're just people doing their thing. Now opens the door to the TVA being the villain, which I'm pretty sure they are. Now, are they the main villain? I don't know. They say that they said in the first one they're tracking down a variant Loki. And then we see this variant here, and we see it's a woman. But she kind of has a Loki mask. So it begs the question, is this Loki's daughter? Is this someone who's taking on the persona of Loki? Is this an alternate version of Loki where Loki was a woman? So from an alternate timeline, which you wouldn't think would really be possible with the TVA, but maybe it is. Maybe this is, there's lots of variables here we actually don't know yet. But it does raise a lot of questions, mainly to, who will be the main villain in this? I definitely lean towards the TVA, as I've already said, but I don't know for certain. It really could be, is the variant the main villain? I'm really leaning towards no. And of course, Loki himself. I mean, he could keep on doing his villainous ways. I think there's a decent chance he doesn't survive this series. And of course, will it be a permanent death? I kind of hope so. But we'll have to see. Now, on to one of the questions I was asked of me. Which do I prefer? Wandavision, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier? We're comparing the two Disney Plus series that came out earlier this year. And that's a hell of a question, because I think in a lot of ways they're kind of equivalent quality-wise, but that doesn't make a very interesting podcast, so I'll attempt to break it down right here for you guys. I felt that Falcon and the Winter Soldier started out rather strong and kind of just maintained consistency throughout, and just started strong, ended strong, maybe ended a bit stronger than it started, but I didn't feel like there was huge changes in the quality throughout. WandaVision, on the other hand, I thought started out as a lame sitcom. It has some rewatch value, but it's nothing great. It's kind of this lame sitcom, and it starts getting better episode 3, and then episode 4 it spikes up. So I would definitely say I like the ending of WandaVision more than the ending of Falcon Winter Soldier, but I like the beginning of Falcon Winter Soldier more than the beginning of WandaVision. So in many ways, I feel like it kind of evens out. However, that's, like I said, that's less interesting. So, I guess the next step would be do it like one of my videos, maybe break down the characters. So, who's more interesting, Wanda and Vision or Falcon and Winter Soldier? And that's an interesting question. I guess Wanda's dealing with lots of psychological stuff, and in many ways she's kind of the only character there. Although I guess Vision will probably get continued in White Vision. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're both there. I do feel like they do a great job with Falcon in that series, and they don't do nearly enough with Bucky. So I wouldn't mind them doing more of Bucky. So if we say they don't, I definitely think Vision was more interesting than Bucky. So who is more interesting, Wanda or Falcon? I think I have to lean towards Wanda. So I definitely think as far as main characters, it has to go to WandaVision. And villains. I guess the villains would be the Sword Agents. Who would be the villains? Oh, Agatha. Agatha and God, I can barely remember. Carly, the super soldier people. Wow, that's a no-brainer. That's definitely Agatha. I mean, she even has a freaking theme song. You can't top that. So yeah, if we look at raw characters, this isn't even close. This is definitely WandaVision. Way better. Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a huge thing, because I think, God, just kind of thinking about this. Maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier for story? Maybe. I feel like that story, I feel like they do a great job with Falcon and evolving him and taking him from this guy who really didn't want Captain America, but he kind of embraced it, not because he wanted it, but because, it's who he is. It's kind of who he's meant to be. So I think that's really well handled in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So yeah, for story, Falcon and Winter Soldier. What would be next? Supporting characters? Ooh. Falcon and Winter Soldier, or WandaVision, we have Darcy, we have Jimmy. In Falcon and Winter Soldier, we have Zemo. Ugh. Those are all really good. I'm leaning towards WandaVision simply because Darcy and Jimmy were great. Although, I don't know, Zemo's great, but they didn't do much with him. They kind of introduced him and then he was gone. I thought he would have more of an integral plot, but instead he just kind of traveled with him for a little bit. He didn't really do anything interesting. So I guess WandaVision there. I don't really know. Now that I've broken it down, I think it's kind of clear WandaVision is actually much better than Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I want to make that clear. I think they do a great job with Falcon and making him Captain America. I think they really sell the heck out of that story. But it's got to be WandaVision. WandaVision was better. Now we'll have to see how it works out. I think Loki will probably be better than WandaVision. But let's see where it ends up. I'm really interested where it's going, though. I think between these two episodes, I might think episode 1's a bit better, but I don't think episode 2 was that big of a downgrade. And it was still very, very interesting. It does a great job expanding the story and just giving you answers that manage to also give you more questions, which is always interesting. And hopefully they wrap them together nicely. I guess it kind of depends how they wrap them together, but I really dig how it's going so far. I think Loki has the potential to be the best one still. Now, we'll go to the soapbox bit. So, yeah, hey, if you're not interested in my politics, turn it off now. One of the things that was brought up on my last little soapbox was, do I regret my vote for Biden? I'm very critical for how he's doing this corporocratic approach to this infrastructure, trying to make deals with Republicans whose main goal is to fight him every step of the way. It's fucking stupid. I don't know why he's doing it. He needs to get his own party in line instead of trying to make deals with a party that's vowed to fight him every step of the way. It's... bah! But do I regret voting for Biden? Well, I want to make it clear something, that Trump was an awful president, but he was a broken clock of a president, just like during the campaign. During the campaign, almost everything he said was awful. But like a broken clock, he was right twice a day. Every once in a while, he'd say something, and it's like, yeah, I agree. And his presidency felt much the same way. Most of his stuff was fucking awful. That 2017 tax bill he likes to brag about was fucking garbage. It gave all it was tax breaks to the super rich. They don't need tax breaks. They need tax raises. It's absurd that the super rich are getting rich. I guess it's an alternate topic because we just got that ProPublica thing talking about how Bezos and Elon Musk and all those guys dodge taxes and actually pay $0 many years. But yeah, Trump was a big part of helping them make sure they pay $0 in taxes, and that's outrageous. They should be paying a ton of money in taxes, not less. But that's the big thing he likes to brag about. But there's lots of weird, dumb things that Trump actually did that were actually good. One of the most famous was when a new president goes into office, it's kind of this big deal where the Taiwanese government will call up and the president ignores them because they want good relations with China. And Trump didn't do that. He picked up the phone. And I hope Joe Biden's continued this. He probably hasn't. But during that presidency, we actually kind of a relationship with Taiwan. And sure, China wasn't thrilled with it, but they still worked with us, more or less. It's the Chinese government is messed up. But there's little dumb things like that where Trump just kind of blundered himself into actually good things. Like, hey, I have no love for North Korea, but I don't want to go to war with them. So him actually trying to talk to Kim Jong-un, or Il, whichever one's there. Him trying to talk to them, I'm not against that. I don't want to go to war. yes, these governments are awful, but they gotta figure stuff out for themselves too. Just like we gotta figure out stuff for ourselves over in our country. But so Trump's not completely awful, but he's mostly awful as a president. However, I didn't vote for Biden during the primary. He was definitely not my first pick. I voted for Bernie because Bernie, I don't agree with 100% of Bernie, but I agree with Bernie like 90 to 95%. Biden, I agreed with maybe 50%. But at the same time, still better with Trump. Still better than a broken clock. Twice a day is not good. So, but I was ready to be like, listen, a corporate versus a standard Republican. At the end of the day, they both kind of represent business interests. If it's Biden versus Trump, I'm just gonna vote down ballot and not vote in the general. But then COVID hit, and Trump downplayed it. And more people died, and he downplayed it. He politicized wearing a mask. He politicized all this basic stuff that you should be doing during a pandemic. And he was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Oh, you should do that. They recommend it, but I'm not going to do that. He constantly did that. And the end result of him downplaying it resulted in death. It resulted in so many COVID deaths in the United States. 500,000 COVID deaths under his watch, I believe, is the exact number. And if he had taken it seriously, I wouldn't put that number on him. I don't agree with Mike DeWine at all, the governor of Ohio, the state I live in. I don't agree with him on almost anything. But I do have to say, I think he actually handled COVID as well as he could have. He put in a serious effort to try to mitigate it. And yeah, it wasn't perfect. It was spotty. But he showed serious concern with trying to fix this thing. And he still does with this Vax-A-Million thing, which is kind of a silly thing, win a lottery if you get vaccinated. But it seems to have worked. More people are getting vaccinated because of that dumb lottery. So I gotta give him credit. I disagree with him on almost everything, but on handling COVID, he nailed it. Unlike Trump. Trump was a disaster. So we're in the middle of this COVID crisis. So to me, it quickly became a no-brainer that we gotta vote for Biden. And I don't like Biden. I didn't want to vote for him. But he can't do worse than Trump during COVID. He simply can't. He at least will take it seriously and wear a fucking mask, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but apparently it is. So, am I happy I voted for Biden? No. Do I regret voting for Biden? Absolutely not, because at the point of the general, it's between Biden and Trump. And I live in Ohio. It went super red. Trump got it. My vote for Biden didn't count. But I did vote for him because, Trump is fucking it up. And honestly, I'd be willing to see how most anybody would do in the role of the president at that point, because Trump ain't doing it. So that was just kind of an abbreviated podcast. It's not going to go as long as the last one. But like I said, my kids are here. If you heard some noise outside, it's my family. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And like I said, next week we might do a longer one. We'll have to see. I don't want to force it to be longer. I just want to naturally talk about the topics. If you have anything you want me to talk about, post it below. And like I said at the beginning, you could have been watching this earlier if you went to the podcast channel. If you're watching this on the main channel, you're catching it late. So go check out the podcast channel.